The radio call came from a ship that shouldn't have existed. I know how that sounds. But when we finally reached the coordinates, there was a vessel sitting in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. No lights, no crew, no movement, and somehow its engine was still running. In 2021, I worked aboard a commercial tugboat that assisted cargo ships across parts of the Pacific. Most days were boring. Maintenance checks, navigation logs, coffee that tasted burnt no matter who made it, the constant smell of salt water and diesel. We were about 6 days from the nearest port when everything started. Around 11 p.m., the radio operator received a weak distress signal. The transmission kept cutting out, just fragments. A man's voice, breathing heavily, repeating the same sentence. Please don't let them know I'm awake. Then static. Everyone assumed it was interference, old equipment, bad weather, something explainable. But over the next 2 hours, the message repeated 3 more times. Always the same voice, always the same sentence, and always from roughly the same coordinates. The captain decided to investigate. The next afternoon we arrived. The vessel was already visible on the horizon, a medium-sized cargo ship. No company markings, no visible flag, no signs of damage, which was strange. Distress calls usually come from ships in trouble. This one looked perfectly fine. As we approached, nobody appeared on deck. No one waved. No one responded to radio calls, just silence. The captain assembled a small boarding team. I was one of them. I wish I hadn't been. The ship felt wrong immediately. Not dangerous, just abandoned. Coffee cups sat on tables. Doors were open. Tools were lying where people had left them. It looked like the crew had simply disappeared in the middle of their day. We searched the bridge first. Nobody. Then the cabins. Nobody, not a single person. Yet the ship's generators were still operating. Food in the galley was only a few days old. The place hadn't been empty for long. Then we found the logbook. The final entries made no sense. Most were routine, weather reports, maintenance records, course corrections. Then the handwriting changed. The last few pages contained only short sentences. They keep checking the rooms. Don't answer when they call your name. Stay asleep. And finally, they noticed me. No signature, no explanation, just those words. That's when we heard the noise. A slow tapping, coming from somewhere below deck. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps again. We followed it down several levels. The sound led us to a locked storage compartment. The door was secured from the outside. Someone had deliberately trapped whatever was inside. The captain unlocked it. The room was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no supplies, nothing. But the tapping continued. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps. It was coming from inside one of the walls. As we cut open part of the paneling, behind it was a narrow maintenance crawl space. And inside that space, we found a man. Alive, barely. He was dehydrated, terrified, and completely unwilling to explain what happened. He kept repeating the same thing. They're pretending. Over and over, they're pretending. When the captain asked who he meant, the man looked directly at us, then asked a question that made my stomach drop. How many of you boarded? The captain answered, 5. The man's face immediately changed. Pure panic. He whispered, no, there were 6. We counted again. 5. Exactly 5. The man shook his head. No, there was another one with you. Then he pointed toward the corridor behind us. Every single one of us turned around. The hallway was empty, but one of the cabin doors at the far end was slowly closing. Nobody had been standing there seconds earlier. We evacuated the survivor and left the ship. An international investigation followed. No crew members were ever located. The vessel's ownership records were incomplete. Most of its history couldn't be verified. The survivor disappeared from medical care less than a week later. No explanation was ever given. Officially, the case remains unsolved. But there's one thing I still think about. When we reviewed the body camera footage months later, investigators noticed something. During the walk down that final corridor, there were 6 sets of footsteps. In late 2020, I worked aboard a commercial fishing vessel operating in the North Pacific. There were 14 of us on board. Most of us had worked together for years. Life out there was repetitive. Long shifts, cold air. The smell of fish and diesel soaked into everything. The ship never really felt quiet. Even when nobody was talking, there was always the sound of machinery humming through the metal walls. About 3 weeks into a trip, one of the deckhands, a guy named Mitch, stopped showing up for his shift. At first, nobody panicked. People overslept all the time. But after 30 minutes, the first mate went looking for him. His cabin was empty. His boots were gone. His rain gear was gone. Nobody could find him anywhere. A full search started immediately. Every compartment, every storage area, every section of the ship. Nothing. The ocean around us stretched for hundreds of miles. If he'd gone overboard, there was almost no chance of finding him. The captain eventually made the call nobody wanted to hear. Mitch was presumed lost at sea. The mood on board changed instantly. Everyone became quieter. Nobody joked anymore. That night, I was in the galley drinking coffee when I noticed something strange. A fresh, wet footprint on the floor. Just one. The floor around it was dry. I stared at it for several seconds. Then another crew member walked through and accidentally smeared it. I didn't mention it. It sounded ridiculous. The next day, strange things started happening. A wrench disappeared from a locked toolbox. A half-eaten sandwich was found in an unused storage room. Several crew members claimed they heard footsteps in corridors that should have been empty. Everyone blamed stress. We wanted explanations, so we made them. Then came the phone call. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the internal phone in the bridge rang. The captain answered. Nobody heard what was said, but I saw his face change completely. A few minutes later, he gathered everyone together. He looked shaken. The captain wasn't the kind of man who got shaken. He said the caller had identified himself as Mitch. Most of us laughed nervously. Somebody was playing a joke. Had to be. The captain didn't laugh. He said the voice knew details only Mitch would know. Personal details, things from private conversations, things nobody else had heard. The following night, I was assigned watch duty. Around midnight, I was walking through a lower corridor near the freezer storage compartments. That's when I heard someone coughing. A familiar cough. Mitch had been a smoker. Everyone knew that cough. It came from behind a locked freezer door. I unlocked it, opened it. Nobody was inside, just stacks of frozen supplies. And yet, the air felt warm, much warmer than it should have. I closed the door and left. The next morning, another crew member reported seeing someone standing at the far end of the stern deck, a man in yellow rain gear, Mitch's rain gear. The figure vanished when he approached. Nobody wanted to admit how frightened we were becoming, because nobody wanted to say the obvious question out loud. If Mitch had gone overboard, who kept moving around the ship? Three nights later, I found the answer, or part of it. I was helping inspect an access compartment beneath one of the storage decks, a section rarely used. We discovered signs that someone had been living there. Water bottles, food wrappers, blankets, a flashlight. The space was barely large enough for a person. Then we found a notebook. Inside were dozens of entries. The handwriting matched Mitch's. The last entry had been written only one day earlier. It read, "They think I'm missing." Then below it, "I can't let them find me." And below that, "One of them isn't crew." At that exact moment, we heard footsteps above us, slow, heavy, walking directly overhead. The problem was, every crew member was already accounted for, standing beside us. When we returned to the compartment with the captain an hour later, the notebook was gone. The blankets were gone. Everything was gone, as if nobody had ever been there. We never found Mitch. No body, no trace, nothing. Officially, he was listed as lost at sea. The company closed the investigation. Life moved on, at least for everyone else. Because there's one detail I never forgot. Months later, I received a copy of the ship's security footage from that voyage. Most cameras showed nothing unusual, except one, a camera overlooking the lower corridor near the freezer room. At 2:17 a.m., the same time as the phone call, a figure walks past the camera. Yellow rain gear, head down, moving slowly. The timestamp is clear, the image is clear, and the face is clear. It was Mitch. In the summer of 2022, I worked as an electrician aboard a cargo ship crossing the Pacific from California to Japan. Life at sea gets repetitive fast. Every day felt the same. The smell of diesel fuel, the constant vibration beneath your feet, the endless horizon stretching in every direction. Most nights after my shift, I'd grab a coffee from the galley and spend 20 minutes walking the deck before bed. It helped clear my head. One night, about 10 days into the voyage, I noticed something strange. A pair of muddy footprints near a maintenance hatch. That wouldn't sound unusual on land, but we were thousands of miles from shore, and it hadn't rained in days. I remember staring at them for a moment before shrugging it off. Maybe someone tracked grease or dirt from a work area. I didn't think much of it. A few nights later, I was working below deck when one of the engineers asked if I'd been moving equipment around. I hadn't. He showed me a storage room where several boxes had been stacked into a neat pyramid. Nobody admitted doing it. Everyone laughed it off as boredom. Life at sea can make people weird. Still, something about it bothered me. The following week, things got stranger. Food started disappearing. Not much, just small things. Granola bars, bottled water, packets of instant noodles. The crew blamed each other. Arguments started. Nobody had proof. One evening, I entered a supply compartment and found an empty sleeping bag tucked behind a row of pipes. There shouldn't have been one there. I reported it. The captain ordered a search. Every room, every storage area, every accessible compartment. Nothing was found. No stowaway. No explanation. A few days later, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 in the morning, I went outside. The ocean was completely black. The moon was hidden behind clouds. Only the ship's lights cut through the darkness. That's when I saw him, a figure standing near the bow, motionless, just staring out at the water. I assumed it was another crew member. I called out. No response. I started walking toward him. The closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. His clothes looked wrong, dirty, worn, like someone who hadn't changed them in months. Then he slowly turned his head toward me and ran. Not away from me, toward the front of the ship. I chased him around a cargo container, and he was gone. There was nowhere for him to go. No ladders, no doors, nothing. Just empty deck. I searched for almost 10 minutes. The captain finally took things seriously. The entire ship was searched again. This time we checked areas that were normally sealed. One compartment near the forward ballast tanks had a damaged lock. Inside we found evidence someone had been living there. Water bottles, food wrappers, blankets, and dozens of photographs. Pictures of crew members, sleeping, working, eating, photos taken from hidden angles. Some were weeks old, some had been taken the day before. Then we found the last photograph. It had been taken only hours earlier. It showed me, standing alone on deck, looking directly toward the place where I had seen the man. Written across the back were 4 words. You finally noticed me. The Coast Guard met us when we arrived in Japan. They searched everything, interviewed everyone. Nobody matching the photographs was ever found. No fingerprints, no identification, no record of anyone boarding the ship. Officially, there was never a stowaway. The company treated the entire thing as an unsolved security issue. Most of the crew tried to forget about it. I couldn't, because there was one detail I never told investigators. When I first saw the man on the bow, I thought he was looking out at the ocean. After seeing that photograph, I realized I was wrong. He wasn't looking at the water. He was looking directly at me.